What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We got a brand new playoff rankings that came out tonight. And, every year with the committee, it seems like there's a theme. They seem to value, there's one thing they seem to really value that year. And it seems like it's changed every year. This year, it might be kind of how the teams are playing lately, how the teams played in their last game. It's almost like power rankings in a way. And the inconsistencies from last week to this week are huge. I mean, we'll get to it. Let's just start at the top. I'm sure you've all seen the rankings by now. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, and Tennessee. So they put the 4 undefeated teams at the top. So, all right, go back to last week. And I'm not complaining about how the rankings are. I like seeing the top 4 teams being the 4 undefeated teams. I have no problem with that. But just last week, the very first rankings, they had a one-loss, think about this, a one-loss Alabama team ahead of TCU. A one-loss Alabama team that had no real quality wins. Their only win was a win over Texas. That was their only top 25 win. And they had a loss to the number 1 team in the country. Okay, now we look at Tennessee and TCU. Tennessee falls behind TCU. What has changed? What's changed since last week? All right, let's compare Tennessee to Alabama. Tennessee actually has 2 wins over top 10 teams. Their only loss came to the number 1 team. And what's changed with TCU? They looked okay, didn't look great against Texas Tech. So the inconsistency there is just, that's crazy. I guess it's just because Alabama has the name Alabama. That's why they were ahead of TCU. Really no other explanation for that. Or maybe they're just looking at Tennessee's last game and saying, hey, look, they didn't look great in this game. Didn't really compete with Georgia. We don't think they're a top 4 team. But that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to look at the entire season. Tennessee has, again, 2 wins over top 10 teams. So if you're going to go one way last week, you've got to stick with that. But no, this week they're just like, TCU's undefeated. Almost like they caved from all the pressure. Because I know a lot of people were not happy with TCU being behind Alabama last week. So that's the big takeaway here. I thought Tennessee was going to be at number 3. I didn't think the committee really liked Michigan. Maybe they like Michigan a little bit more, and now all of a sudden they like TCU more. Just crazy how they seem to have changed from the first week, these first rankings, to the second rankings. But Tennessee does come in there at number 5. Again, I had them at 3. I thought they were going to be at number 3, but they put them at number 5. I think this is what the AP poll looks like, actually. So let's go now to 6 through 10. This was pretty much how I expected it to look. I had Oregon 6, LSU 7. I had Clemson actually at 8 and USC at 10. The big takeaway from these rankings this week, and I didn't watch the ranking show, so I don't know if they maybe talked about some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. Again, I didn't watch the show at all. I just saw the rankings. I was actually off playing basketball at the time the rankings came out, and then I came home and did this real quick. So the big takeaway here is the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is looking really good because they now have USC and Oregon ahead of Clemson, meaning the Pac-12 champion is pretty much guaranteed to be ahead of Clemson. So the winners are the Pac-12, the loser is Clemson here with these rankings. If Oregon, USC, one of these teams wins the Pac-12, they're obviously going to stay ahead of Clemson. They're going to have more to add to their resume here down the stretch. And even UCLA, if they knock off number 8 USC and then knock off a number 5 or 6 Oregon team in the Pac-12 championship, I think USC would definitely pass Clemson as well, or UCLA would definitely pass Clemson as well. So, yeah, the Pac-12 is looking really good. I'm starting to think more and more that the Pac-12 is going to get a team into the college football playoff. And you have to wonder, can LSU pass Oregon? If Oregon adds a win against Utah and then they add a win against USC or UCLA, is that going to be enough to stay ahead of an LSU team that potentially could beat Georgia in the SEC championship? That would be really interesting. I think, really, if LSU beats Georgia in the SEC championship, I still think Georgia is going to be ahead of them. They're not going to drop, they're not going to move a number 7 team ahead of the team that was just number 1. I don't really see them doing that. You can look at where Tennessee was. They fell from 1 to 5. That was a big drop. We don't normally see that big of a drop at the top, especially losing to the number 1 team, the new number 1 team. So yeah, no real surprises here except for, again, where USC is ranked. I don't I think it's a terrible ranking. I think UCLA should be at that number 8 spot. UCLA to me has a much better resume than USC. USC, I mean, they just don't have much on the resume at this point. I really like UCLA's resume because they have the win over Utah. That is a big-time win. USC's only quality win is Oregon State. They've now got 3 losses. I can't even really call that a quality win. UCLA, to me, just has the much better. They beat Utah easier, or excuse me, they also have one over Washington, sorry. Yeah, they have one over Washington, who is ranked. Utah, who's in the top. What is going on? Why is... this doesn't make any sense. Did they get USC and UCLA confused? Again, they now have Washington ranked. I didn't even think about that earlier. So 2 top 25 wins. USC has none. And USC has not looked good the last couple of weeks. So that one really, really makes no sense to me. I do not understand why USC is up here. UCLA is supposed to be the team at number 8. I think the committee got them mixed up or something. I don't know. Let's go to 11 through 15. This is actually exactly how I projected it. This is what I thought, not what they should do, but this is what I thought the committee would do because of what they did last week. Ole Miss, UCLA, Utah, Penn State, North Carolina. So there was really no surprise. Again, these 5 teams exactly how I projected them to be. And my complaint, UCLA. What? Why? I just don't get it. I don't have any answers for that one. Let's move on to 16 through 20. So NC State and Tulane. I had those flipped. I had Tulane at 16, NC State at 17. Although I did say how I thought they should be ranked, that NC State should be ahead of Tulane. They added that one over Wake Forest. So I like that. I like NC State there, Tulane at 17, Texas at 18. I'm okay with that. I still think they're overrated, or at least not overrated, but I just think that the resume is not quite good enough for them to be at number 18. Kansas State at 19 and Notre Dame at 20. I had Kansas State a little bit lower. I had Notre Dame at 20, so that's right where I had them. So interesting, Notre Dame not even ranked. They get a big win over Clemson, move all the way up to number 20. But these teams all, pretty much where I thought they would be. Same thing with 21 through 25. Illinois has a loss to Indiana and Michigan State. Think about that for a second. They have 2 losses to really bad teams, but they don't have what Notre Dame has. They don't have any quality wins. The best wins for Illinois at this point, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, that's it. Those teams haven't been great this year. So Illinois, just I guess because they have 2 losses, that's why they're still ranked. And then you go to UCF at 22. Talked about this last week. They do not deserve to be ranked. Florida State is another example of what have you done lately. Remember, this team beat LSU, a top 10 team. I think they should definitely be ranked higher. Kentucky at number 24. Where is this? Where did this come from? They beat Missouri. I don't know. I just don't understand where this one came from. Kentucky hasn't really done anything. They have a win over Mississippi State, a win over Florida. That's it. And they have 3 losses. I think there are other 3-loss teams that have better resumes. Oklahoma State has a win over Baylor, a win over Texas. I know they haven't looked good lately, but again, that's sort of a theme with some of these teams, how have they played lately, which I'm okay with that, but it's not what they're supposed to do. I want to see the hottest teams, at the end of the season, especially once we expand to a 12-team playoff. But yeah, there's Washington at number 25. I didn't include them in my projections. I honestly just kind of overlooked them. They've only got 2 losses, so I'm okay with that, with Washington being ranked. But again, that gives UCLA a second-ranked team on their resume, which makes that's my biggest gripe with these rankings. UCLA and USC, they should be flipped. I'm okay with Tennessee being where they are, but it's not consistent with what they did with Alabama and TCU last week. So again, inconsistencies, looking at name brands, maybe that really is a thing here. Maybe that's why USC is ranked where they are. But the winners this week, the Pac-12, because they're in a position to get ahead of the ACC. TCU, if they can win out, they're going to be in good shape. We could see TCU and the Pac-12 champ get in. Then we could see the SEC champ and the Big Ten champ in. I think that's what the committee wants. I think they're setting it up to try to get that. They don't want to have to deal with Tennessee getting in over, say, TCU. Maybe that's why they put Tennessee behind them. I don't know. But that was interesting to see Tennessee all the way at number 5 and the Pac-12 in a great position. A great position to get a team into the college football playoff. What were your thoughts on the rankings this week? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.